Hello students, welcome to EPG Pathshala. I am Shashi Kapoor from University Business School, Punjab University Regional Centre, Ludhiana. Today we are going to talk about the module Operational Implementation under the paper Strategic Management. After completing this module, you will be able to understand number one, the importance of the strategy implementation. Number two, the key issues involved in strategy implementation. Number three, implementation of strategy, making the changes in the organizational structure. And number four, implementation of strategy using internal new ventures, acquisitions, and the strategic alliances. Students, strategy formulation is an important phase of strategic management, but strategic management does not end until the strategy so formulated is successfully implemented in the organization. Translation of strategic thoughts into strategic action is also equally important. A strategy cannot serve any purpose if it is not implemented effectively. Success comes through effective implementation and evaluation, but not only through effective formulation. A strategy not precisely planned but implemented well may achieve more than a perfect strategy which is never implemented. Most of the organizations invest a lot of time, money, and efforts for formulating the strategy only, considering that implementation is the secondary. But strategy formulation is an intellectual process and it requires coordination among only a few individuals, whereas implementation is an operational process and it involves coordination among large number of peoples. It also needs a special motivation and the leadership skills. The concept and techniques to be used for deciding strategies in large or small organizations may be the same, but implementing those strategies is going to be altogether different depending upon the size of the organization. Implementing strategy may require different types of actions to be taken by an organization, which may generally includes adding new departments, hiring new employees, changing pricing policies, changing sales territories, transferring employees from one division to the other, developing cost control mechanism, changing the product lines, building new facilities, and there can be many more. Undertaking these types of activities cannot be the same for different types and the size of organizations. Therefore, effective implementation of strategy is very much essential to take the company from its present position to the desired future state. Management issues central to strategy implementation. Strategy implementation affects all the functionals and divisional areas of a business entity from top to bottom. Following are the some issues which need to be addressed for successful implementation of strategy. These issues are involvement of the strategists in the strategy implementation, annual objectives, policies, resource allocations, managing conflicts, and having supportive culture in the organization. Let us discuss about all these issues one by one. Involvement of divisional and functional managers in strategy formulation. During the implementation phase, there is always a shift of responsibility from strategists to divisional or functional managers who are to play key role in implementing the strategy. Obstacles at this stage may arise if strategic decisions come to surprise of divisional and functional managers as they have not been involved in the strategy formulation activities. Managers and employees throughout the organization need to be involved in implementation, and the role in the implementation should build upon their prior role during the formulation stage. Establishing annual objectives is another key issue for implementing the strategy. Setting the annual objectives is important as the established organizational, divisional, and departmental priorities. Objectives can be used as basis for deciding the resource allocation as well. Considerable time and efforts should be devoted to ensure that the annual objectives are well conceived, consistent with the long-term objectives, and are supportive to strategies be implemented. Annual objectives are helpful in monitoring the progress towards achieving the long-term objectives of the organization. Keeping in view the long-term objective of the organization, annual objectives for the different divisions can be established. Further, every division can have different annual objectives for different functional departments as well. Formulating different organization policies. Policies helps the managers and employees in knowing that what is expected from them, thereby increasing the likelihood that strategies will be implemented effectively. Strategic change does not take place automatically. Rather, some policies are required to solve the problem occurring on day-to-day basis. Policy can be defined as a set of guidelines, methods, rules, procedures, and practices established to support the organizational goal. Policies can be used as tools for implementing strategy. These policies define the limitations or the boundaries within which each and every employee has to work. For example, some organizations may be having policy to discourage smoking at workplace, a policy to work in shifts, a policy to have one or more supplier, etc. Walmart has a policy that it calls the 10 feet rule, whereby customers can find assistance within 10 feet of anywhere in the store. Resource allocation is another key issue to be taken care while implementing a particular strategy. Every organization has different resources which are to be deployed in order to achieve the desired goal. These resources can be financial resources, physical resources, human resources, and technological resources. Resources should be allocated among different divisions and departments, keeping in view the established annual objectives. If an organization does not use the strategic management approach for decision making, then resource allocation in such organization is often based on political or personal factors. There can be nothing harmful to an organizational success than for a resource allocation which is not consistent with the annual objectives. The effectiveness of resource allocation lies in the resulting accomplishment of an organization's objectives. Managing conflict. Managing conflict is again an important issue while implementing the strategy. Conflict can be defined as disagreement between two or more parties on some issues, interdependency of objectives, and competition for limited resources generally lead to conflict in the organization. Setting annual objectives may also lead to conflict sometimes. For example, A collection manager's objective of reducing bad debts by 50% may lead to a conflict with objectives of a sales manager to increase sales by 20%. Having conflict is very much natural in the organization. So it becomes very important that how conflict is handled. Generally, there are three approaches to handle the conflict: avoidance, diffusion, and confrontation. Avoidance of conflict refers to ignoring the conflict, assuming that it will be resolved automatically. Diffusion refers to playing down differences between parties by compromising so that neither is a winner or a loser, or resorting to majority rule or referring to higher authorities, etc. Whereas confrontation refers to exchanging the positions of parties to conflict so that they can understand the point of view of other party, or arranging a meeting wherein both the parties can explain their side to find the solution for a conflict. Creating a strategy supportive culture. Culture prevailing in an organization must be supportive to the strategic change. The aspects of existing culture, those are incompatible to the strategies being implemented, should be identified and changed accordingly. Generally, the strategies are market driven and formulated keeping in mind the competitive forces. Therefore, changing culture according to the strategy is effective rather than changing the strategy as per the culture prevailing in the organization. Different techniques like recruitment, training, transfer, promotion, restructuring, etc. can be used to alter the culture for strategic support. Now let's talk about the strategy implementation. There are different approaches which can be used implementing strategy in an organization. Generally, strategy can be implemented through the organizational structure, through internal ventures, through acquisitions, and through strategic alliances. Students, strategy can be implemented by making changes in the organizational structure of an organization also. Implementing strategy often requires these kind of changes in the organizational structure. Generally, the organizational structure dictates that how objectives and policies will be established and how resources will be allocated. Structure of an organization needs to be designed to support the strategic pursuit. There is no optimal structure for a given strategy or a type of organization. The basic building blocks of an organizational structures are differentiation and the integration. Implementing strategy through organizational structure can be very well understood with the help of this diagram. The organizational structure can be of two types. It can be having a vertical differentiation structure or can be having a horizontal differentiation structure. As such, the horizontal structure is concerned, it can be further classified into the different categories like the functional structure, product team structure, geographic structure, SPU structure, matrix structure. Let's talk about the vertical differentiation. Vertical differentiation specifies the reporting relationship that links people, tasks, and functions at all levels of a company. The management chooses the appropriate number of levels of hierarchy and correct span of control for implementing its strategy effectively. It establishes the authority structure from top to bottom. The basic choice is to have tall or the flat structures. When organizations are grown and number of hierarchical levels become too many, then it is difficult and expensive to follow the vertical differentiation. Horizontal differentiation is the solution for such organization. Following are the types of the horizontal differentiation: the functional structure, product team structures, geographic structure, SBU structure, and the matrix structure. Functional structure. The most widely used structure is functional or centralized structure, as this is the most simplest and least expensive amongst different form of horizontal structures. It arranges the people working in the organization on the basis of their common expertise and business function they perform, such as marketing, finance, research and development, and management information, etc. In this type of structure, people doing similar tasks are grouped together so they can learn from the expertise of each other. They can monitor each other and ensure that no one is shirking from his or her responsibility. This type of structure may have communication problems because different functional hierarchies evolve and functions grown more remote from each other. Further, if number of products grows, a company may find it difficult to measure the contribution of one or few products to its overall profitability. The next type of structure can be a product structure. In a product structure, activities are grouped by product line. It is most effective structure for implementing strategies when specific products or services need special emphasis. It is widely used in organizations which deal in very few type of products or services. It allows strict control and attention to the product lines, but may also require a more skilled management force and reduced top management control. Companies like General Motors, DuPont, and Procter and Gamble use this type of structure to implement its strategies. Another kind of structure can be a product team structure. In the product team structure, as in the product structure, tasks are divided along product lines to reduce the cost and increase management's ability to monitor and control manufacturing process. However, specialists are taken from the various support functions and assigned work on a product or project where they are combined into cross-functional teams to serve the needs of the product. These teams are formed right in the beginning of the product development process so that any problem that arises can be handled at early stages only. Moreover, the use of cross-functional teams can speed innovation and responsiveness to the customers because when authority is decentralized to team level, decisions can be made more quickly. Geographic structure. This type of structure is best suited when companies have similar branch facilities located in widely dispersed areas. It allows local participation in decision making and improved coordination within a region. For example, a company may divide its manufacturing operations and establish manufacturing plants in different regions of the country in order to be more responsive to the needs of the customers of that particular region and to reduce the transportation cost. A company like FedEx clearly needs a geographic structure to fulfill its corporate goal, next day delivery. Large organizations such as Neiman Marcus and Walmart, etc., moved to a geographic structure soon after they started building stores across the country. Another important type of structure can be strategic business unit structure. As the number, size, and diversity of divisions in an organization increases, controlling and evaluating divisional operations become difficult. SBU structure, also known as multi-divisional structure, groups similar divisions into strategic business units and delegates authority and responsibility for each unit to a senior executive who reports directly to the chief executive officer. It can facilitate strategy implementation by improving coordination between similar divisions and channeling accountability to distinct business units. The cost of operating this type of structure is very high compared with the cost of a functional structure. Companies like GM and IBM are the examples of SBU structures. General Motors operate the whole corporation through multi-divisional structure. Each car division is a part of different product division based on the kind of the car it makes, as this allows it to operate more efficiently. Each division is also able to adopt the structure that best suits its needs. The next structure can be a metric structure. It is the most complex of all the structure as it uses both vertical and horizontal flow of authority and communication. In metric structure, functional managers work with project managers in temporary teams to develop new products. Once the project is completed, they move to new teams where they can apply their skills to develop string of new products. Day-to-day operations of a division are responsibility of divisional management, which holds the operational responsibility. The corporate headquarters staff, which includes board of directors as well as top executives, is responsible for overseeing the long-term plans and providing guidance for interdivisional projects. This staff holds strategic responsibility. Such a combination of self-contained divisions with a centralized corporate management represents a high level of both vertical and horizontal differentiation. These two innovations provide the additional control required to handle growth and diversification. It has advantage of enhanced corporate financial and strategic control. It helps in creating a stronger pursuit of internal efficiency despite of its high cost. Metric structure is adopted by more than 90% of all large US corporations. Implementing strategy through internal new ventures. Internal new ventures can be used to implement corporate level strategy when a company is having some specific resource and capabilities in its existing businesses that can be used to enter and compete in a new business. For example, HP started with dealing in test and measurement equipments, and later it entered in the computer and printer business through internal venture strategies. Similarly, Microsoft also started with software business but later on taking the advantage of its software skills. It entered in the Xbox video gaming also. If a company is planning to enter an emerging industry where no established competitor exists, then it can use this strategy even without holding specific capabilities, as it will not be having any competitive disadvantage. This type of strategy is very much popular but is having quite a high failure rate also. Generally, it is suggested that large scale entry to a new business is prerequisite for success. In long run, it may bring greater returns, but in short run, it may involve significant development cost and the substantial losses. That's why many companies follow a small scale entry which may lead to the losses. Many new internal ventures are high technology operations. To be successful, science based innovations must be developed with market requirements in the mind. Many internal ventures fail when organizations ignore the basic requirement of the market. A company can be blinded by the technological possibilities of a new product and fail to analyze the market opportunities. Thus, a new venture may fail because of lack of commercialization or marketing a technology for which there is no demand. Another common mistake made by organizations is failure by management to establish the strategic context within which new venture project should be developed. For the successful internal ventures, company must follow a structured approach. It must first spell out its strategic objectives and then communicate it clearly to its research and development department. There must be the close coordination between marketing and R&D people to ensure that research project focuses on the market needs. Management needs to monitor the progress of the project closely. During the first 4 or 5 years, the criteria for evaluation must be growth in the market share rather than profitability or the cash flow. Cash flow or profitability may be given importance during the medium term only. Construction of efficient scale production facilities before demand has fully materialized. Large marketing expenditures to build a market presence, brand loyalty, and commitment by management to accept the initial losses can be helpful for making the new ventures successful. Strategies can be implemented through acquisitions also. The acquisitions refer to purchase of one company by the other while implementing strategy. Acquisition may be used for two reasons: to strengthen company's competitive position or to enter into a new business. When a company does not enjoy the resources and capabilities to compete in a particular business, then may require an incumbent company at a reasonable price which have those competencies. Entering a new venture internally may be a slow process. Thus, companies may use acquisitions as an entry mode to move fast. A company can purchase a market leader in a strong cash position overnight rather than spending years to build up a market leadership position through the internal ventures. Internal new ventures may be a risky affair as uncertainties remains associated with estimating future profitability, market share and revenues, etc. But in case of acquisitions, there remains no such uncertainties. Acquisitions are preferred as entry mode when industry to be entered is well protected with barriers to the entry. By acquiring an established organization, a company can avoid such entry barrier, but acquisitions may work in situation where incumbent company can be acquired at a cost less than the cost to enter the same industry through new venture. Though it is a popular mode of strategy implementation, but there is an ample evidence that many acquisitions failed. For example, a study by Mercer Management Consulting of 150 acquisitions worth more than $500 million concluded that 50% of these acquisitions ended up reducing shareholder value, often substantially, and another 33% generated only marginal returns. Only 17% of those acquisitions were found to be successful. It is found that companies often find difficult to integrate divergent corporate cultures after the acquisitions, which may prove to be the major reason of the failure. Many times acquisitions failed because companies overestimate the potential economic benefits to be reaped from acquisition, as they tend to be very expensive. For a successful acquisition, target identification and pre-acquisition screening is an essential activity. Screening would begin with a detailed assessment of rationale for making the acquisition and with identification of an enterprise that would be an ideal one to acquire. Once the screening is through, bidding strategy should be formulated to pay the least for acquisition. Essential elements for any such bidding strategy should be the timing. For example, Hansen plc, one of the most successful companies specializing in growth through acquisition, always looked for a business which is suffering from short-term problems due to cyclical industry factors or from problems localized in one division. Such companies are typically undervalued by the stock market and can be acquired at a reasonable payment. Let us now talk about the last method for implementing strategy, that is, implementing strategy through the strategic alliances. Strategic alliances refer to cooperative agreement between two or more companies to work together and share resources to achieve common business objectives. A joint venture is a formal type of strategic alliance in which two companies jointly create a new separate company to enter a new business. It can be followed in a situation when a company looks at the advantage of establishing a new business in an growth industry, but due to the risk involved, it is not willing on its own. In such a situation, company may decide to form some kind of strategic alliance with another company. Parties to alliance may be actual or potential competitors. They may at different stages in an industry's value chain, or they may be in different businesses but have joint interest in working together. Strategic alliance may be temporary or a permanent one. For example, Motorola found it difficult to enter Japanese cellular market. It formed an alliance with Toshiba to build microprocessors. As a part of the deal, Toshiba provided Motorola with marketing help, including some of its best managers. This helped Motorola to win government approval to enter the Japanese cellular market. Many companies enter into a strategic alliance to share the fixed costs and associated risks that arise from the development of new products or processes. These alliances may be seen as a way of bringing together complementary skills and assets that neither company could easily develop on its own. Biggest disadvantage of strategic alliance is excess of alliance partner to valuable low-cost manufacturing knowledge and route to gain new technology and market access. The critics of alliances even say that more formal and extensive the alliance, greater the possibility is that company may give away more than it gets in return. Students, now let us summarize the module. We studied that successful strategy formulation needs to be followed by effective implementation as well. Discipline and hard work from motivational managers and employees is very much essential to successful implementation of strategy. Different management issues like annual objectives, resource allocation, framing policies, including the strategist in the implementation, and strategy supportive culture are the critical issues during the implementation stage. Depending upon the size and nature of the organization, other management issues can also be equally important in the successful implementation. Companies need to monitor closely the organizational structure to achieve superior profitability through successful strategies. Depending upon the nature, strategies can be implemented through making changes in the organizational design, structure, through internal new ventures, acquisitions, and strategic alliances also. Thank you.